That's awesome. We haven't had Canada on a Sports on the Hill podcast, so it's always fun to have a different country represented, for sure. So I'm going to just share to a couple of different groups real fast, but why don't you give your take on what's happened in the first period while I do that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, through the first 40 so far, I would say turnovers really have been the story. Kind of been the story for the Caps all season. It's usually a lot worse for some reason when Holtby is in net, but today with Samsonov, I mean, we saw the giveaways were 10 to nothing by the Caps in the first period. So 10 giveaways by the Caps, 0 by the Penguins. So, I mean, if you ask me, we were, I would say, lucky really to only be down 2-1. At that point, I think the second goal probably Samsonov would like to have back, but overall you can't really blame him for the score right now. He's stopped made a lot of good saves as well. So yeah, the giveaways and then the power play as well is just atrocious again today. It's really been atrocious all the way back to, I would say, early December is when it really went cold. And kind of something strange that they did in the first period, there was they put Ovechkin over on the right side rather than his usual spot in his office there in the left circle. So I'm not really sure. Like, I get that you want to switch it up and try something different because it's been so cold, but I'm not really sure that that's the way to fix anything, taking your best shooter and obviously your best goal scorer out of a shooting position. So didn't work on the first two power plays. They switched it right back. They've only had one since then. But they've got to find a way to get something on the power play. They've been giving up shorthanded goals like crazy. So I guess that's probably a little bit of the silver lining, is at least we haven't given up a shorty today. But yeah, they have to find a way to get something on the power play if they want to win this game, I think.
For sure, yeah. I mean, we are lucky that we haven't given up a shorty in this game. I mean, for sure. I mean, there was a lot of opportunities. I would say they had better opportunities on our power plays than we did, and that's very, very frustrating. And some just bad plays by our team and our defense, as you were talking about before, just giving it up and really. We're lucky it's only 3-1, but it's just been frustrating. It's been a really good week for the Caps overall. I mean, Ovechkin's been on a tear, 11 goals in his last 5 games, and he's caught up in the goal-scoring race. I know that you, in a bunch of the Caps groups, always joke that he's always behind in that, but just in this sort of stretch right after the All-Star break, he seems to catch up right away, and we're seeing that again. So what are your thoughts on his play this week and then overall in this game?
Oh yeah, and it's not a joke, right? Like, he does it every single season. He spots somebody, some poor bastard. He gives them like a 3-month head start on the Rocket Richard. This year it happens to be Pasternak. It was Sagan one year. It was Line another year. Recently, he gives them kind of a head start up until Christmas. Let's say he's usually about 10 goals behind at Christmas, and then after the new year he just turns it on and passes everybody, and he's doing the same thing again right now. Obviously 11 goals in the last 5 games. He's passed 4 Hall of Famers in the last 2 weeks, right? So right. I've been saying since 2008 that he's going to pass Wayne Gretzky, and I'm sticking to that. So I think kind of everybody else is starting to get on board a little bit with that now, because he's less than 200 goals away. But yeah, he's got that fire in his belly, right? Like, he wants to be the best, and he's obviously not slowing down at all. So 37 goals already. I do think he's going to take the Rocket again this year. That'll be for a 9th time. He's already got their record, obviously. He's led the league in goals 8 times, which is more than Brett Hall's 7. So yeah, I don't think he's not going away anytime soon. He's not slowing down at all.
Right, which is incredible. So I mean, it definitely softens the blow a little bit to know that the game I went to on Wednesday kind of helped bridge the gap, so it kept his goal-scoring prowess alive. But I will say that was his low point so far in the week until this game, obviously.
That was the game that he only got 1.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so he got 2 or 3 in all the other ones, so which is just really, it's crazy to think at 34 he's having his best 5-game stretch in his career. Like, you'd think that with all those years, even when he hit 60, he would have done this, but he never had.
And not only that, but not only the last 5 games, but when you look at going from 100 goal mark to the next 100 goals, say from 600 goals to 700 goals, he's on pace to do that, to go from 600 goals to 700 goals in 159 games. So that would be the second fastest time in his entire career that he went from 100 goal mark to the next. So I think there's a strong argument to be made, and the numbers certainly back it up, that he is actually getting better as time goes on and as he gets older, which is just incredible, because you typically see goal scorers, they usually slow slow down around age 25 or so, right?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people who thought that he was slowing down around age 25, and then he just kind of, said fuck that and took it to the next level. So he's definitely getting better, I think, as time goes along. And he's found different ways to score too. That's the thing. Like back in the day when he was younger, it was a lot of like fast breaks, and he really had some really fast feet and quick legs, and he would just blow right past guys. I think now he's kind of finding different ways to score, and playing with good players, of course, helps too. Like he's got Backstrom, who the Caps obviously locked up for 5 more years, which is great. That Backstrom extension, I think, is really important to him breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal record. I think that was a big key, and that's something that is going to help him to break it.
Yeah, for sure. It's my friend Benson just said there's still one more period to give up a shorty. So it's like don't jinx it yet.
So, we still got 20 more minutes, and honestly, I mean, I knew. I'm not going to say that we're going to lose, but I knew that we were going to lose when I saw them come out for warm-ups wearing those goddamn third jerseys, right? Like, have we won?
I don't think we've won a single game this year on them. I think maybe one. I think one out of 7.
I can't, in the last 3 years, I can't remember a time that we won a game wearing those jerseys. There was maybe one time, but I don't know what it is.
It's not particularly good. Actually, I think last year our numbers were better. I think 2 years ago was terrible. Last year better. This year terrible again. With the and I know because one of the games was on my birthday where they wore them. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then no, it did not work out. So I was like, we can ditch that for now. But. Yeah, I think we're so close. It's just the Penguins are just playing with some more intensity and some more fire. We do not wake up for these noon games in the same way that we do for our 7 o'clock games. And just the last couple of games in general, even I thought we played well against the Senators, but the Senators are a bottom-dwelling team. I haven't seen that sense of urgency that we saw a couple of weeks ago. I think I'd like to see some more sense of urgency from the Capitals, especially in this third period if they want to get back in. And all those games where they came back, there was just more urgency, especially in the third period. I think the way to get back in this game real quick is you got to take it 5 minutes at a time. You guys got to score 1 goal in the first 5 minutes, 1 goal in the second 5 minutes, and then you got 10 minutes to work with. That's kind of how I thought they needed to do it when they were down 3 goals a couple of weeks ago, and that's exactly the recipe, and they ended up scoring 4 goals in the period, which I don't necessarily know will happen in this game. I think Penguins are a better team, unfortunately, but if they give themselves an opportunity and just take it 5 minutes at a time and try to be the best team on the ice over that 5 minutes, that's the way to get back into it.
For sure, I agree. And I mean, let's be clear, they're not out of this game by any means. They're leading the league in all types of comebacks. So I think there's definitely an opportunity. You kind of look at it like you're only down 2 goals. That's not a lot of goals for the Caps to score. Maybe if it was a different team, you'd be saying the game was over, but they've come back obviously a number of times already this season. But I do think that through the first 40 minutes, it just looked to me like the Penguins wanted it a lot more. It looked like the Penguins were the team that's 6 points back in the standings. They look like they want to catch up. The Caps, like you said, for the last really couple of weeks, they've kind of looked almost comfortable, I guess, at where they are in the standings. Obviously, they've been leading everyone for much of the season, so I'd like to see them kind of get some of that motivation back. I think that they're maybe getting a little bit too comfortable right now.
Yeah, so we got a couple of comments here on our Facebook Live feeds, so thanks for commenting in. Grant Green says, give us our Unleash the Fury, so maybe we'll have Jenaya give her rendition of that at the end of this. And then Caps are playing lackluster, hope they snap out of it soon. That's from Eric Kane. So I agree with that assessment. They just got to come out with a lot more fire and a lot more energy. Pretend that this is your biggest rival and show up in front of all the...
Exactly.
It's just I just don't see it. The Penguins are looking like it's the biggest rivalry in hockey, but I just haven't seen it from the Capitals so far yet in this game.
The Penguins right now, they look like they hate us a lot more than we hate them.
Yeah, we need to hate them more. Yeah,
exactly. We're being too nice. They're not playing. I mean, the Caps have had a lot of hits, but I think they could still play a lot more physically as well. That's kind of one area that they have a massive advantage, I think, over pretty much every team in the league. I'd like to see them use it a lot more. I know it's kind of tough to use it so much during the regular season. It's a long season, 82 games. They usually do crank it up quite a bit in the playoffs, as you would expect. But I'd like to see them in the third period here come out, hitting hard, get on the forecheck, and I think that's the way to get back in the game.
For sure. And just more shots on net. I mean, what the Penguins were doing great was just getting stuff towards the net. Things were deflected. deflecting off of goalies. They were getting some good bounces. You got to make your bounces. And so I think getting shots on net, 4 deflections. I think Murray's made some great plays so far, but I think just he needs more work and more things where he's not just catching it with his glove hand, that things have to bounce off of him, and maybe you get lucky.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm getting frustrated right now, too, is it's Matt Murray and net. Shoot the puck. He's been horrendous this season, all season, or going back to last season even. He was terrible last season as well, so you got to shoot the puck. 19 shots through 2 periods is not enough. And then, like you said, just getting traffic to the net as well. 2 of the goals that the Penguins scored were right in the paint, right? So the Caps need to get some more of that.
For sure. All right, real quickly, let's talk about this goalie controversy. So it's frustrating because obviously people will have the argument, Holtby would have given up 5 in this game, or maybe this is the game that Holtby knows it's the rivalry and would have shut him out. So, it's easy to see it from one point of view. Obviously, every time Holtby falters, he's just getting jumped on in a lot of these Caps forums. And Samsonov can do nothing wrong, even though he's had easier games and the players have not played particularly well in front of Holtby at times, giving up a lot of opportunities. Some that you've seen in this game, in fact, where these turnovers, and some of those ended up in the back of the net the same way. Can you talk about this quote-unquote goalie controversy and your opinion on it?
Yeah, for sure. So I do have strong opinions on it. I think that, the first period we kind of saw from the Caps what's been happening to Holtby a lot, which was the Caps were just turning the puck over like crazy, right? Like they turned it over, like I said, 10 times in the first period. That's not really been the case when Samsonov has been in net generally. So they cleaned it up a lot in the second period. Like they only had 1 giveaway in the second period. So they're just at 11 now for the game as a whole. But I think that something that's been really evident is the defense that the Caps play in front of Holtby versus in front of Samsonov. It's not the same defense. And, that's kind of, you could say that it's subjective. Everyone's going to see that differently, but there's a huge discrepancy in the number of giveaways when Samsonov is in net versus when Holtby's in net. They turn the puck over like crazy when Holtby's in net, giving up grade A chances galore. So I do think it's quite obvious that Holtby's struggling. He's not in a good headspace right now. I think his contract status probably has a lot to do with that. And I'm not making an excuse for him, but that's just the reality. You see it all the time with not only goaltenders, but all different positions, different players. So I think that's weighing on him a lot and it's affecting him mentally. And, he's not played well. So let's be clear about that. I'm not making an excuse for him. I'm just simply saying that the Caps turn the puck over a lot more when Holtby is in net. Samsonov as well, he's played against a lot, I don't want to say easier, but yeah, easier competition. He's had the games against the Senators, the Red Wings, those teams in the league. So he's got starts against kind of the weaker competition. So this is really today, I would say, against the Penguins, it's his first real test. You could point to maybe, he started a game against the Maple Leafs. Like they're an okay team. They're probably going to be in the playoffs. But I mean, today I would say it's his first real test. I
think he played the Lightning, or I think there was a couple of games that he's had that were decent. Somebody quoted me 5 good opponents that would probably make the playoffs that he's played against, which is fine.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying that he has played against all terrible teams, but he hasn't played back-to-back, in the spotlight on national TV, and I think he's playing decent in this game. I'm not trying to say that he isn't, and he might be the future, but I want him to have a mentor on the bench if that's who we end up going with in the playoffs at a minimum, or something like Grubauer in 2018 where you're going to have to throw him in net 2 games into it. What are we going to do? We're going to rely on, Vanek or somebody we're bringing up from the AHL to back him up by doing a trade. It's just the idea of trading somebody mid-season. It rarely works for teams if you look back to history. And
especially when it's Braden Holtby, right? Like, sorry, I don't mean to cut
off,
no. Like as in the locker room, he is beloved by his teammates. He's part of the family, right? So if you trade Braden Holtby before the deadline, you're kind of telling the team, hey, we don't think you have what it takes to win the cup this year. We're going to go with a 22-year-old rookie and just, hope it all works out. You can't do that to this team that, they're the highest scoring team in the league. They're so good in so many areas. Like, they have what it takes to win the Stanley Cup again this year. And I think that if you go trade your veteran goaltender who's won a Vezina Trophy, who's won the Stanley Cup already, you're sending completely the wrong message to the rest of the team. And not only that, but it's just ridiculous when I hear some of these comments to trade Holtby. Like, do people actually not remember what was going on leading up to the 2018 playoffs? I mean, like, Grubauer was on fire. Holtby was playing worse than he is right now. Everybody wanted him traded. So many people, trade him. And if our general manager had listened to the cries of the fans, if he had traded Holtby before the 2018 playoffs, we still would not have a Stanley Cup right now. We probably would have been swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets. So
probably.
I think that should offer some perspective, and I feel entirely comfortable with Holtby in net in the playoffs. That's where he plays his best hockey. He's got some of the best career numbers in the playoffs ever in NHL history.
Yeah, exactly. So, like top 5 in so many statistical categories, and that's what I want him.
Percentage goals against.
Yeah, it's crazy with the idea. All right, well, the puck just dropped, so I will let you do your rendition of whatever you want to say to pump up the guys for your Unleash the Fury, and then I'll let you go. But definitely check out Jenaya Talks Caps podcast. The link is in the description, and it's a great listen to it. I definitely listen every week. But what do you have to say, your final thoughts to the guys before we end our stream here?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. And I think actually what we need somebody to release the rally balloon inside of the arena here. I think that's probably what we need. But just get on the forecheck, start playing a lot harder, fire some pucks at the net. Murray, he can be Swiss cheese in there. So just shoot high glove side, and let's go. Let's get a few back here.
Sounds good. Well, let's go Caps, and thanks for checking out our intermission report. We'll definitely talk more about it on 7 o'clock on Monday on Sports and Hell podcast. We'll also talk about the Super Bowl, some small event that's happening a little later today. We'll talk to you guys later. Let's go Caps.